and let us all do we can to build a better future. So AOC is once again opening up her mouth, and apparently AOC is discussing calling on for Hamas to release hostages and a ceasefire. War crimes are happening on both sides, and disagreeing with Senator Schumer, and also how Biden is losing the Muslim American vote. But hey, folks, it's not only Biden losing the Muslim American vote, he's losing black voter enthusiasm. Biden's losing all over the place. And the only way Biden's probably going to get reelected is if there's enough people who are just brain dead to believe that war is a good platform to run on, because that's what Biden's running on right now. Total war, unending total war forever and ever. With the war in Ukraine, now this war between Israel and Palestine, that's his only thing that he has at this point. Crumbling infrastructure, check. Americans, hey, guess what? You're not affordable apartments? Hell no. Owning a house? Hell no. But they're opening up parking lots for people who live in their cars to stay in. You see? You will own nothing and be happy. And pretty soon, they're going to tell you you can't own a car. Land of the free, home of the brave. But AOC, Biden exceeding expectations. I guess that's the case. All right, so let's talk about it first before we pull up the video from Case Study QB. I want to pull up this little tweet from the wonderful, incredible Brianna Joy Gray. And let's go ahead and pull this up here and talk about it. Michigan Muslims are saying no to Biden. If he loses the state, Democrats will not only blame everyone and everything, but his own decision-making. Voters should make it clear that this is Biden's choice. He could change course and earn those votes back. Will he? Hey, let's have democracy in the back, in the live stream chat and also in the comment section. Type 1 if you think, Kit, you know what? Biden's going to earn those votes back. He's going to be running on a strong progressive platform. You just watch. And then we're going to beat Trump. Type 2, dude, he ain't going to do that. He's too senile to know where he's at. He ain't going to do it. He ain't going to do it. He ain't going to do it. Again, look, folks, I got to make this very clear. Biden is a clown. So shout out to Case Study QB. Look, folks, we're gonna listen to her speak. Remember on yesterday's Friday show, Rashid Tlaib all upset and crying at Biden. Hey, AOC, no one takes you seriously anymore. And if you're a progressive or an independent, think that somehow AOC is going to change her tune or hold Biden's feet to the fire, whatever you're taking, keep it away from me, because it might take away my ability to think critically. This is the face of a fraud, a grifter, a liar, someone who is not consistent. And when she was asked to stand up for us for forced to vote, she went into the background and hid like the coward that she is. But now, oh my God, this war is happening, and AOC is talking out both sides of her mouth. Remember, she endorsed Joe Biden, so she's okay with everything that Biden's doing. So let's play this video. Shout out again to Case Study QB. Follow him on Twitter. He is wrongly being censored.
To Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who recently met with family members of hostages being held by Hamas and has been calling for a ceasefire. Congresswoman, thanks for coming back on the show. Is it fair for me to summarize your position and the position of some of your fellow progressives that you're calling for Hamas to release the hostages and for Israel and the U.S. to agree to a ceasefire?
Just send in Sean King. He's the negotiator. What'd you even do, Sean King? Like, what'd you do? You got up on a phone and called somebody? Anyways, that's from a previous story.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
And what would you say to the Israelis who say they suffered a horrific terrorist attack, over 1,400 people killed, many in gruesome ways, children killed, abducted. And so they say they're fighting a...
By the way, hey, Mehdi. Sorry, got his name wrong. What's it like having the anchor spot back? You're doing an interview, a hard-hitting one with a hack fraud progressive, quote unquote. You're back in the big seat.
War of self-defense, a war that any other country, including the US, would fight if they were in the same position. What is your reaction to that line of argument?
I think one of the things that's important to recognize about this situation is the asymmetry of what is going on.
She had to use a big word, asymmetry. It's about the macro and the micro.
As well as the collective punishment of what is happening to the Palestinian people at this moment. Hamas has absolutely engaged in horrific attacks. And every single day, There are more details that are released about what occurred on October 7th that shocks the human consciousness and shocks our conscience, our collective conscience. However, we do know as
this is a word salad, by the way. So you're not going to get an answer. You're just going to hear words. And for those who are brain dead, they're going to be like, yep, yep, yep. AOC is hitting all the marks.
well, that war crimes do not constitute and are not an appropriate response for other war crimes. Hamas's hostage taking, their hostage taking of children, of the disabled, elderly, civilians are a war crime. But when we are talking about the blockading of water, food, electricity to a population of 2.2 million Palestinians, when we are talking about dropping what we're seeing from Human Rights Watch, reports and confirmation from organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, the dropping and deployment of white phosphorus, which is also a war crime.
Just like the cluster bombs that we sent to Ukraine. Oh, oops. Oops. Did I say that out loud? Did I say that out loud? Did you all know that we're giving a lot of weapons to Ukraine, too, that are also deemed as war crimes, like cluster bombs? I mean, white phosphorus, yes, true. So, shh. No one tell that to the vote blue, no matter who crowd.
It is unacceptable to.
You know what? Just because all of you are so beautiful, the fact that she said that that's a war crime, you know, the phosphorus, and yet no one is calling her out for the fact that, you know, those cluster bombs are war crimes. That's a big old oof, 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 oof. I know. I had to. Sometimes that's just a great Coca-Cola classic. So let's play the rest of the video.
Think that 1,700 Palestinian children alone, that their deaths will somehow make up for or justify the violence of what we saw on October 7th. You know, here in Congress, every single year we pass a defense budget, and every single year we hear about the precision, the sophistication, the technological capacity.
So what she just admitted there is that she helps pass the war budget. You remember when she said she would raise a ruckus? She's a liar. Hey, listen, conservatives, you don't have to worry. AOC is on your side. But like any kind of character in the WWE, she has to put on this act to be like, oh, I'm going to stop the stuff right there and trigger the right. Don't worry. She's on your side. 5 years of AOC. Nothing is fundamentally changing. She knows her role and the character arc that she's supposed to play as. All of politics is like this in Washington, D.C. It's the truth. It's brutal and unfair. But just as a side note, none of these politicians like any of us. They don't respect any of us.
Capacities to meet targets with such precise strikes. And yet what we are seeing unfold in Gaza is an indiscriminate bombing campaign. We are seeing the dropping of white phosphorus, an indiscriminate weapon. We are seeing civilian centers being bombed. We are seeing churches. We are seeing thousands upon thousands of people being killed by these strikes. And it occurs to me, and I think a question that we all must ask ourselves is, what price of innocent life is acceptable in terms of targeting Hamas? And are we even receiving? We are receiving daily counts every day about the number of innocent people that are dying. We are not seeing reports on how effective this has actually been in terms of dismantling Hamas. I think it's very important for us to raise that point. And I think it's also very important for us to understand that this is part of a larger intergenerational cycle of violence.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just gotta stop us that right there. All right. Look, there's a little bit more to this because you gotta listen to how much of a fraud she is. So if I sat through it, and if Case Study QB sat through it, all of you are gonna sit through it, because this is the face of a professional liar. She doesn't give a damn about what's happening between Israel and Palestine. She doesn't care about the people in Gaza. If she actually gave a damn, she would have been more consistent and much more of a fighter. But oh no, No. See, AOC had the one chance to show courage when she voted no against the Iron Dome defense. You know, and what did Nancy Pelosi do? She ran, wagged her finger, and made AOC cry. Changed her no vote to a president. AOC, I thought you said voting president was bad. Remember that?
So you mentioned war crimes, and Human Rights Watch did this week, said Hamas should be investigated for committing war crimes in southern Israel, as you said. But also Israel is also being accused of war crimes by both Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. Just to be clear, your view is that both sides are committing war crimes, because 95% of your colleagues in Congress won't even call for a ceasefire, let alone accuse Israel of war crimes.
I don't see how anyone can look at reputable international organizations confirming the carrying and deployment of white phosphorus by the Israeli government, the Israeli military, and say that there is no question here. In fact, Josh Paul, the State Department official that resigned publicly this week, pointed specifically to this issue, that the Leahy laws, United States Leahy laws, require the United States to assess if a government is committing war crimes or engaged in gross.
That's so adorable that she says that, oh my God, we're going to look into these war crimes. Like, no, first of all, AOC, government, United States Congress ain't ever going to do that. And just so y'all know, you think AOC is going to get on her platform, get on a little soapbox and say, like, we're going to hold Israel accountable? No. Alexandria, this is from 2021 in September of the 27th. This again from 2021. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, opened about the Israeli Iron Dome vote that left her in tears. Yes, I wept. I cried. AOC has apologized and provided a lengthy explanation for her reaction to a recent vote in the U.S. House of Representatives that left her in tears. On Thursday, observers spotted the New York lawmaker, leading progressive, crying on the floor of the House and being counseled by her colleagues after she switched her vote from no to president. Oh, how difficult that was. For an Israel defense funding bill, she says she still opposes. The vote split her from other progressives in the House, including Representative Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. The bill, which passed 420 to 9, greenlit $1 billion in additional funding for Israel's Iron Dome defense system, which shields the country from aerial attacks. Real quick, AOC. This is just something that I have to bring up. Those walls that surround Gaza, all those watchtowers, fences, security cameras. I'm not trying to sound conspiratorial here. So YouTube, just listen. I find it odd that haymaker that Hamas threw to Israel connected. Like, all those cameras, all those soldiers, all those watchtowers, those huge concrete walls, those barbed wire fences. It's just, wow. I didn't know they were made out of paper mache. But people get lucky. Sometimes things happen. An opportunity happens, right? And, there's an attack that happens. But it's just, I find it so odd. It's just a little odd. A big question mark of how? How does fly under the intel radar? How did this happen? How did this happen? Just me questioning things. I find it odd. I just find it odd.
Gross violations of human rights. And that must be considered in any weapons transfer or military aid assistance. And from an individual whose role directly involved the assessment and the deployment of these weapons and consideration of Leahy, he himself is saying that U.S. law is, in his view, being violated. And that must...
So what are you going to do about it, AOC? Oh, nothing. There you go. I just answered my question. She's busy trying to find a better electronic vehicle because she's been ashamed about and being called out by her supporters for owning a Tesla. I still think AOC and Elon Musk can still work. Okay. that's a relationship that can bloom into true love. I believe in those two.
Must be an absolute consideration, because when we are talking about the role of democracy and fighting for democracy, the whole case for democracy, it lies upon and rests upon civil society, rule of law, and the protection of human and civil rights. And we must make our case more so in wartime than almost any other time.
Oh man, she missed her calling of being an actress. God damn, this is word salad supreme right here. All right. In fact, this is like an egg salad supreme with a whole bunch of raisin and a little bit of salt in there. No spices.
To make the distinguishment about what makes us different.
So, Congresswoman, your critics would say that it's all well and good calling for a ceasefire, but that doesn't deal with the problem of Hamas, doesn't protect Israeli civilians from future Hamas attacks. And I wonder, for example, what is your response to Senator Schumer, Majority Leader Schumer, who suggested in remarks that Punchbowl published on Friday that those of you progressive in the House who are calling for a ceasefire or suggesting Israel is attacking hospitals are basically taking, he said, quote, Hamas's position?
You know, I have great respect for Senator Schumer, and we enjoy a very strong working relationship. This is an area, however, of disagreement. I would say that if we want to see how this is going, we can just look back at the many different cycles of violence and response. And I do not believe that it's absolutely not a defense of Hamas in order to criticize this current approach, this indiscriminate, violent approach.
So she's not going to do anything. She's not going to say anything. She's not going to challenge the Democratic leadership. Yes, she's going to be calling out Biden in a short while. But let me be very clear. AOC, what are you trying to pull here? I know you're not going to challenge Biden. I know you're not going to push his feet to the fire. This is her just trying to say things to make her look relevant to the people who are still suckers that think that you can actually change the Democratic Party. Curses upon Dime Store Eminem, I mean Kyle Kalinske, and Fat Tony, I mean Cenk Uygur, for giving us this Frankenstein monster and the Just Us Democrats.
1,700 children are dead. And when I think about the political aims of violence, the material aims of violence often involve the destruction of human life and much of the horror that we've seen. But many of the political aims of violence is to further radicalize and entrench both parties into further violence. And when we see people radicalized to dehumanize the Palestinian population as a result of Hamas, this is part of the goal of that political violence. And when we see the dehumanization of Israeli families as a result of this is part of the political aim. And we have to be able to get ourselves to break this cycle, because Hamas and terrorism...
Congresswoman, you would accept that a ceasefire, though, would leave Hamas in place. You would accept that's a cost of saving civilian lives in Gaza.
I think in the immediate sense, we have to have a pause in what is going on. As you mentioned, only 14 trucks have made through in humanitarian aid. We are talking about a full blockade of water for a population of 2.2 million people, 1.1 million people in northern Gaza. And we're supposed to think that 14 trucks is going to somehow in any way address what is happening in terms of the starvation, the famine, the thirst that is happening. People, I mean, we are now at a state where there is risk of cholera and other types of waterborne disease.
Yes.
And
look, let's not pretend to be stupid here. Who do you think's holding it back? Israel and the United States government, okay? Now, there was an opportunity of peace. Maybe some time ago, decades ago, there could have been peace in our time. Maybe if different people were in charge. Maybe if certain things did not happen. Maybe a big what if. But the point is, we live in the here and now. And let's be very clear here. Israel is already promising a massive invasion, a huge strike, because at the end of the day, what probably Netanyahu's trying to do is see how far he can go to acquire more land, to see how far he could push the envelope. Because again, before this attack happened, something that people aren't really addressing right now, but I'll be talking about later on in the show, he had a little bit of a crisis, Prime Minister Netanyahu. People of Israel weren't too happy with his current policies, and his government and previous other governments have been on some very shaky, unstable ground. The best way to cause a distraction if you got some problems is start a war. Like in the film, Wag the Dog. Who would ever know that people will be looking at Wag the Dog and say, you know what, that's a good idea. A good war to distract everyone.
I mean, what, 14 trucks of what? Bottled water?
On that note about what's happening to them, I can't help but notice that you mentioned dehumanization, almost all of the at least 18 House Democrats who've called for a ceasefire in Gaza are people of color. How much of the congressional indifference to Palestinian life in Gaza, the refusal in DC to acknowledge sometimes the humanity and the innocence, not to mention suffering of ordinary Gazans, how much of that is driven by the fact that they're Arabs or they're mostly all Muslims or they don't look like us, do you think?
At the end of the day, hey, let's be very clear here. I want to have democracy in the chat again. Type 3 if you think, or you could say that AOC is wrong. Let me just rewind this. Let me ask this question to the audience. When it leads to election night, and let's say Biden is still in the race, how do you think AOC is going to tell people how to vote? Type 3 if she's gonna be like, no, if she's gonna be like, guys, vote with your conscience. You can vote independent, vote third party, vote how your heart feels like it. But I can't support Biden after all the stuff that's happening. Type 4, no, dude. She's gonna tell us to vote Democrat. She's gonna tell us to vote Biden. She's just gonna vote blue no matter who, because we gotta stop Trump. Why is that? Because this just caught my attention, and I just got to pull this up here because I'm willing to bet AOC is going to tell everyone to vote Biden. I'm going to see a lot of 4s in the chat. But real quick here, our boy Harry, big brain idiot Harry, who likes to sniff Biden's diapers, right? This whole I'm not voting for Biden in 2024 because of what's happening in the Middle East right now is the exact same sentiment that got us Donald Trump, his terrible policies, a conservative Supreme Court, MAGA, and more. Don't be dumb. Vote blue all the way down the ballot. That's from Harry. Oh, little Harry. By the way, I just want to give a huge shout out to Colin of INN, who is doing phenomenal work. Okay, just have to throw this out here. Get his response. I'm not voting for a president who is complicit in genocide. Good old Harry can take his privileged, arrogant ass out of here. Well said, Colin. Let's continue on more, because this hypocrite's going to tell us to vote for Biden. I know it. I know it. I just feel in my gut.
I mean, I will say that I have long found the ignoring and sidelining of Palestinians in the U.S. House of Representatives, the humanity of Palestinian populations in the 5 years that I've been in Congress quite shocking. This is not something that is new to many of us. I have engaged alongside many of my colleagues from Betty McCollum's bill on the detention, conditioning aid and making sure that it's not going to the detention of children to
Did she just say what I think she just said? The detention of children. AOC, the kids are still in cages south of the border. Don't listen. Shush on that about detention of any kind of thing like that, okay? Because I don't see you going south of the border and putting that big old show like you did when Trump was president.
To just raising the routine human rights issues. We've been trying to raise the alarm bells around this for years, and there has been virtually no acknowledgement in the United States House of Representatives about the extreme plight and continued human rights violations of the Palestinian people for years. I think I found it alarming. I found it shocking. When in 2019 or 2020, in our first term of the House of Representatives.
She found it shocking. She was shocked. Shocked. Brr. She was shocked about all the stuff that's happening in Congress. Goodness gracious, Cretaceous.
Is when a Prime Minister Netanyahu banned 2 United States sitting members of Congress from coming to Israel.
Yes. Don't act stupid here, AOC. You know how the game is played. And not what? You shocked? You're shocked that that's happening? Wow. Hey, did you know Nancy's doing insider trading? Did you know that? Did you know all of Congress? Those good people in Congress are doing insider trading, committing crimes and lying to the American people. Did you know a lot of Congress are taking super PAC money? Did you know that? Are you shocked about that? Hey, AOC, did you know that this whole situation with the House Speaker vote, that you and those other 14 congressmen and women, you added in 15 congressmen and women for force of vote way back in 2021, that you guys really could have held their feet to the fire and could have fought harder for Medicare for all, actually add legitimacy to the progressive cause? But no, you didn't. You didn't. Are you shocked that you could have done that? That you could have made yourself relevant? Oh, no. No.
Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar banned 2 members of the United States Congress from entering the country that own colleagues did not seem to say or do much of anything. That should be an affront to our entire government.
Yes, it should be. But all of Congress is inherently corrupt. Not only is the military-industrial complex and big oil and prison-industrial complex, Wall Street, big banks, corporations, hedge funds, but there's also the Israeli lobby too. You've been there for 5 years and you're acting stupid like, oh, everyone should be shocked? Wait, what are you going to do about it? Because it's easy to go after Republican lawmakers. It's real easy to do that. And this is where I got to sit down both Republican voters and diehard Democratic voters, that both parties are the same, because the same people donate to the Republican Party also donate to the Democratic Party. And I don't see you raising a stink to your fellow colleagues in the Democratic Party, right? You don't want Nancy to knock and claw at your door and start yelling at you, right? AOC?
And country.
So you mentioned your colleagues in the Congress. Before we run out of time, I've got to ask you about the House itself. You have no speaker right now. The Republicans defenestrated Kevin McCarthy, couldn't agree on Steve Scalise or Jim Jordan. Now Byron Donalds, congressman from Florida, wants to be speaker. What do you make of him?
AOC, forced to vote, sends its regards. Jimmy, Brianna Joy Gray, Hard Lens Media, RBN, Due Dissidents. Everyone sends their regards. Forced to vote. Could have worked. And AOC's like, we just got to be professional.
He's only served 1 term in the U.S. House of Representatives.
She's like, he only served 1 term. I have 2 terms under my belt. He is beneath me.
Last thing that he did in an oversight committee was attempt to submit falsified evidence to an impeachment hearing. I think it helps to know where all the bathrooms are before you run for the U.S. House of Representatives.
AOC's trying her jab at comedy. Jimmy Dore, move over. Comedy by AOC. Hey, remember when I said I was going to fight for Medicare for all? Just kidding. Room full of people hoping for AOC to fight for Medicare for all. Absolutely silent.
Personally, and I think it helps to have some real experience in one of the most complex legislative bodies in the world before you try to run it.
And last question for you, just looking forward. I mean, despite Republican dysfunction, they're still doing very well in the polls, in the presidential polls.
Hey, Hassan, that was actually funny.
Looking forward to November 2024, especially now with this war in Gaza that seems to be alienating a few key parts of the Democratic base, young voters, progressives, Arab American voters in states like Michigan. How worried are you about Joe Biden's re-election prospects and the chances of a Donald Trump?
By the way, when AOC said about that representative not knowing where the bathrooms were at, I got to give a shout out to Gray Walker, joint third party, who says, which bathroom to use is kind of confusing these days. You know, Gray Walker, you win. You win the statement and comment of the day in the live stream chat, buddy.
Return to power.
I think we need to understand that one of the lessons that must be learned from Donald Trump's first election is that it is not sufficient and has never been sufficient to say, well, the other guy's worse. I think it's
But you use that all the time, AOC.
It's an argument that is very understandable. I understand it completely. And it is on its face correct. But where it is offensive and where I think folks sometimes lack sensitivity in that is that only some populations are asked to have their rights held hostage, to ask to have their humanity held hostage, and say we don't really need to prioritize the policy demands of these constituencies because of how much worse the opponent is. I think a democratic coalition not just means involving protecting people from erosion, but it means actually championing and incorporating their policy priorities in our governance. We have a year.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. Geez, hold on. That's what you call word salad. You know what the vote blue no matter who people are going to do? I already can tell you their tactic. Everyone, I hope you're sitting down, but don't pretend to be shocked, but maybe put on an act like, oh my God, I can't see them doing that. Be prepared for the liberals to vote blue no matter who, progressive pundits, Democrat people. Like when I say progressive pundits, more of the elite corporatized people, the vote blue no matter who, BSDNC, CNN, to start bullying people to say, you gotta vote for Biden or whoever the Democrat is because of Trump. They're gonna bully you. They're gonna call you names. Even if you're black, they're gonna call you a Nazi. If you're a woman, they're gonna call you a misogynist by not voting for Biden. You think I'm joking, but I'm not.
And I think it's important to demonstrate that in the year to come.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Worst conversation ever. Stupid interview. Waste of time. Sorry to put you all through that. But side note, hey, AOC, any money for East Palestine, Ohio? AOC, what about Flint, Michigan? How about this one, AOC? Any money to help out the people of Lahaina? Any money to help out the American people? Yeah, that's what I thought. No.